All right, so we're diving into The Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon, and it's a GMA book club pick. It's creating quite a buzz, and you'll see why. Picture this 18th century New England. You find a body frozen in the Kennebec River. That's the scene Lawhon sets, but this isn't just any mystery.
Yeah, it's really interesting how Lawfon takes this fictional story and roots it in history with Martha Ballard. She was a midwife, and her actual diaries give us this really intimate look at daily life back then, especially for women.
Yeah, that diary aspect really drew me in. It makes it feel so authentic, but it's not just history. It's a murder mystery with social commentary woven throughout. You're hooked from page one. Before we get to the suspense, I'm curious, what was life like for women like Martha in the 18th century?
Imagine a world where your options are really limited. Education was mostly for men, and women had basically no legal rights. You were expected to be a wife, a mother, a caretaker. Your life was centered around the home. And if you stepped outside those boundaries, people resisted, even got hostile.
Wow, that really puts things in perspective. And then there's Martha dealing with all the time, and suddenly a body turns up. Instead of backing down, she becomes this unlikely detective seeking justice in a system designed to silence her. What stood out to you about that central conflict?
Well, it's striking that the murder mystery becomes a way to explore the limitations of this patriarchal system. Martha's trying to uncover the truth, but she's constantly running into the societal attitudes towards women. It's like an uphill battle the whole way.
Martha's character really resonated with me. She's not helpless at all. Lawfon portrays her as this intelligent, resourceful woman. She uses her role as a midwife to get insights others don't have. It's amazing how she navigates this complex social web gathering information in a world where her voice is often ignored.
Absolutely. She's ahead of her time in many ways. And the way Lawfon develops the supporting characters, the magistrates, the townspeople, even Martha's own family, it adds so much depth. They show us the attitudes towards women medicine, even the very idea of justice back then.
It's not always easy to tell who's on her side, right? These supporting characters, they're both allies and obstacles for Martha, which says a lot about the complexities of community and isolation in a small town. She's respected as a midwife, a healer, but the moment she challenges those norms, she's pushed back. It's like she's stuck between a rock and, well, a frozen river.
Exactly. And within that tension, Lawfon weaves in all these different themes. The murder mystery is captivating, don't get me wrong, but it's so much more than that. It's about justice and gender inequality, the role of women in medicine, that constant tension between community and isolation. There's a lot to unpack, but it's done really well.
And we can't forget the symbolism throughout the story. I mean, that frozen river, it's not just a setting, it's like a character itself. Did you get that feeling too?
Absolutely. It's this constant presence, a reflection of how harsh life was back then. The world they live in is unforgiving, but there's also this sense of resilience, of life continuing even when things are tough. And that's what makes Martha's story so powerful. It's not just a whodunit, it's about the human spirit.
It makes you think if you were suddenly in Martha's shoes facing those same limitations, how would you even begin to seek justice? I mean, how do you navigate a world that's trying to silence you?
It raises such an important question about individual agency versus the societal constraints. It's something Martha wrestles with throughout the book. And honestly, it's something we still deal with today, even if it's different. How do we balance our pursuit of truth and justice with what's expected of us?
That's so true. It's like an echo through time. So what does this all mean for us as readers in the 21st century? We may not have frozen rivers or 18th century patriarchy, but Martha's story reminds us that the fight for equality, for justice, it's still going on.
It's a torch being passed down through generations. And what I find striking is how the frozen river shows us that even when things seem impossible, one person's courage can make a difference. Martha's story might be from the past, but her spirit, her resilience, that's something we can all learn from.
So well said. We've explored the depths of the frozen river together. Hopefully you're feeling inspired, maybe a little chilled, but ready to face your own metaphorical frozen rivers. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep reading and keep thinking. That frozen river, it's a symbol of harshness, but it also becomes like this source of revelation. The body's found there. And it feels like that's where all the story's secrets are hidden, too.
Right. The river becomes this metaphorical space. It's where life and death meet, where secrets are hidden and then revealed. It's almost like that frozen surface. It mirrors those societal rules that are holding everyone back. And as the ice melts, the truth starts to come out.
It's like the setting itself reflects what's happening inside the characters. It mirrors their struggles and how their true selves slowly come out. But speaking of secrets and revelations, Lawhon doesn't shy away from the tougher parts of that time period. We see how brutal life and death were, the limits placed on women, and the constant struggle to survive. Was that unsettling for you at all?
You know what I found compelling was that Lawhon shows us this reality without making the past seem romantic. We see the hardship, the struggle, the few choices people had. It's not always easy to read, but that's what makes it so powerful. It forces you to face the hard truths of history.
Absolutely. It's not sugar-coated. And that makes you think, it makes you appreciate how far we've come, but also realize that some of those struggles are still happening today.
Exactly. And even with all the darkness, there's this undeniable beauty in Lawthon's writing. Her words are immersive lyrical. She uses language to create these vivid pictures of 18th century New England. You can practically see, hear, even smell that era come to life.
Oh, I agree. I was highlighting passages all the time, just enjoying how she describes Martha's world. And the pacing, too, it's perfect. The mystery keeps you guessing. The historical details are fascinating. And through it all, you're rooting for Martha to find justice. What did you think about how critics have responded to the book?
It's been really positive. Being a GMA book club pick definitely helped more people discover the book, and people seem to connect with Martha's story on a deep level. Critics love Lawson's storytelling, her historical research, and how she created a female character who's relatable and inspiring.
I think people are drawn to Martha's determination and her resilience, especially with all the challenges she faces. She embodies the strength of the human spirit. She reminds us that even when things seem impossible, we can still fight for what we believe in.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the key takeaways from our deep dive into the frozen river. It's not just a historical mystery, it's a story about resilience, about seeking justice, and about the enduring power of the human spirit.
It makes you wonder, like, if we were in Martha's world with all those same restrictions, how would we even try to find justice? I mean, how do you make your voice heard in a world that's trying to keep you quiet?
Right? It brings up this really important question about like our own choices versus what society tells us to do. It's something Martha struggles with in the book. And to be honest, it's something we still struggle with today, even if it looks different. How do we balance our own search for truth and justice with what people expect of us?
Yeah, that's so true. It's like this echo across time. So what does all this mean for us as readers now in the 21st century? I mean, we don't have frozen rivers or 18th century rules, but Martha's story reminds us that the fight for equality for justice, it never really ends.
It's like a torch being passed from one generation to the next. And what strikes me is how the frozen river shows us that even when things seem impossible, even when you feel alone, one person's bravery can change things. Martha's story might be set in the past, but her strength, her resilience, that's something we can all take with us.
That's a great point. We've really explored the depths of the frozen river together. And hopefully you're feeling inspired, maybe a little bit chilled, but definitely ready to face your own frozen rivers, whatever those might be. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time. Keep reading and keep thinking.